Hey everybody, this is Al Nash from the Direction You Empowerment Dynasty, and you're listening to the Unapologetic Woman Podcast, the show for women who love to live their legacies, unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. If this is a community you would like to be part of, visit directionu.co/unapologetic. Today, we're talking about how your wardrobe is a mirror of your life with Sarah Gale. The former Project Runway Australia judge migrated from the competitive fashion industry, pioneering the journey into the aesthetics of the soul. She is an accredited coach and founder of Wearing Your Worth, a revolutionary program created to enable women to gain greater insight into their psychological relationship with their clothes and use their wardrobe to come home to themselves. A mother of two, Sarah is passionate about living an authentic life and continually honing her willingness to live transparently with love, courage, and vulnerability. Thanks for joining us. This is Sarah Gale. Sarah, we've only had one conversation, and it was one of those introductions by an amazing friend who we both just absolutely adore, and then getting on the call, having no idea what to expect, and go, oh, so rich, so much, so yummy, like so many overlaps. And of course, that's exactly why you're on here today, because then I knew we had to do the recording, because I love the work that you're on about and the way that you're approaching the things that we're going to be talking about today. So thank you so much for saying yes to being on the podcast today. I am wildly excited to be delving into this conversation.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I felt the same after our conversation. There was just so much alignment, and I felt like I was talking to a part of me. And I just love it when that happens. And you have this extraordinary essence and energy that just allows me to be fully myself. So even though I have this, authenticity is my gig. And then there's some people that I just feel so utterly, it's like this flood of permission. Before I came on this morning, I thought, oh, do I need to, do a separate intention meditation? It was just like, no, I feel fully free to be myself. Great, let's do that.
Yeah. And I think part of it has been the journey that I had to go on for myself in fully accepting myself, which took a long time. Yeah. And the reason why I so firmly believe that now is the time when we get to return to ourselves, because once you fully accept and appreciate and love yourself, for me personally, it's impossible to not fully accept, appreciate, and love other people. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to have the same values as them, but I get to just connect to other people and go, wow, you're unique. I love all of you. Like, I want to get to know you and how you operate in the world, your worldview, how it was formed, what you're doing with it now. Like, it's just, and it had to start with myself.
Oh my gosh, like there's absolutely 100%. 100%. And I think part of that loving and accepting ourselves is really loving our flaws as well.
Do we want to call them flaws? Do we want to call them flaws?
I'm going to call them flaws because we live in this human world. And so our ego is going to tell us they're flaws. So the counteraction to that is not to pretend that they're not there, but to say to back, I love them. Like, why wouldn't I? What's wrong with a flaw anyway? Look at the response to it. Are they flaws? It's like, we can't say anything, but they're full of ourselves in who we are. And, I love the fact that I have equal and opposite in everything. And there are some days that I don't. And they're the days that to stay curious about what's under there. Ooh, what is that? And, it's so beautiful when we come up against people that we can find that a judgment will rise. And it's like, I want you to be different. and it's like, and the only reason we want others to be different is so that we're not triggered on some level, so that it makes it easy for us, right?
Yeah, and I love triggers. I juice on triggers because for me it's always a, ooh, what is that about in myself that I get to have a look at? And I always move into triggers, and I learned this a long time ago. Move into my triggers, not run away from my triggers. And so I actually invite being triggered, and I invite my own judgment into the conversation as well. I think that if we want to be holier than thou, we must not judge kind of people. I think it's really hard to live that way because you're judging yourself all the time for judging.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even if we think about judging even what we started with, flaw, we could judge that. And it's like, we live in the human world. And so it took me a while. It's probably why I was thinking about this the other day. It might be why my mission is really to embody our authenticity, because it keeps us in the body. I've come to this earth to play in this earthly realm. And for so many years, I've been a daily meditator, like for over 26 years now. So it's very easy for me to spend my time out in the ether. Like, that is not a hard thing for me to go to. My piece in life has been, how do I embody the essence of who I am and take that into the world? Because that is what I'm here for. I'm not here to float around and to stay out of, pretending that I don't judge or I'm way up, above it. That's just complete. I'm a human being and I'm here for the experience. And I love what you said. Yeah, leaning into triggers, it's not comfortable, but by God, it's really useful. And actually, it can be, there's this sense of growth that comes with that. And I love that. For me, growth is super, super important. Yeah, it's just who I am.
So before I selfishly go into where I want to go with this conversation today, I always start with the same question, and I want to honor that because I have learned so much through this one question, and I'd love your answer. And my question is always, what does it mean to you to be an unapologetic woman?
Okay. I haven't thought about this, right? You might have sent it to me, but I haven't thought about this. No, maybe you didn't send it to me. Often people will, and I tend not to look at the questions first. For me, what springs to mind, and it's interesting because when I separated from my husband, I've actually been married twice, from my first husband, this tune started playing in my head that I'd never heard before. And with the words that said, I want to be free to be me. And that's it, right? It's free to be me, free to be me, free to be me. Now, what does that mean? Another piece came to me is that sense of be the one I choose to follow. And that is like my mantra. I put it everywhere in myself. And, I love the guidance from others, and, and I know I've got my specialties and other people have got their specialties. And so, in this world, I love gathering all of those pieces. However, the unapologetically woman is about really being like listening inside, feeling those pieces, and being the one I choose to follow. That's it, whatever that means.
I love that. It's one of the reasons I brought my work into self-leadership rather than leadership. And one of the reasons where I am not programmed on any level to follow others or follow a path that has gone before me. It's simply not part of my DNA makeup. I don't see the path, and I can't follow. It's not part of my makeup, and I'm really, really happy with that. But I'm not leading so that others can follow me. I'm leading because I follow myself, my intuition, my guidance, my curiosity. And that has taken me on a journey of remembering who and what I am, rediscovering how humanity, consciousness, body, mind, spirit, emotions, all of that works. And it just feels to me as though we're in a space of human consciousness and development, evolution, where that's where more and more people are being called to. So instead of just going, I just want to follow somebody else, I just want to tell them what to, they must tell me what to do and how to do it and and I respect that as well. Some people are still here for that journey. But the feeling I'm getting is more and more people are going, wait, hold on. I want to figure this out. I want to love this. I want to respect myself in the mirror and be that person that I feel inspired by. Not just to be, but I feel inspired by. And so that's what I love about that definition of yours. Be the person I want to follow. That goes to so many different layers.
It does. It definitely does. And it's been with me for quite some time, actually, after I left a very difficult relationship. And I was really proud to have found that strength to make a hard decision and to move. And someone asked me only a couple of weeks later, actually just off the cuff, and said, who inspires you most in this world? And I looked at them and the answer just bubbled up, and I said, I do. I inspire myself because I was so inspired by my strength of will and by my sense of determination to look after myself and my boys and to do what I felt was right for me. And it was extraordinary. And that's when I started to realize that, whoa, I actually have it all inside here. And whatever it is that I feel drawn to, it's like, take that contemplation inside rather than outside. It's probably why I do the work I do, because that's what I do, is I help people come back to them rather than this complete external focus. And it's one of the biggest lessons I've had to learn, actually, is really allowing my own inherent nature to inform me and, allow that.
As you're talking about that, what comes to mind for me is that I've always had a strong internal locus of control. We have an either internal or an external locus of control. Where do we put the control into the hands of? And majority of people have an external locus of control. They still look at circumstances, other people, motivational industry, all of those things to get them going, keep them going.
Yeah.
But it's almost an internal locus of worth. And when we have the internal locus of worth, that's the game changer.
Yes, it is. It is. You are absolutely right. And when we have that sense of internal worth, because so many people put their worth externally. So it's their appearance, it's their job titles, it's their roles, it's pleasing others. They look for validation from the external world to tell them that they're worthy. And those roles only act as a barrier to us really knowing and appreciating ourselves. And when we do that, it's very difficult. I know this because I used to be there all the time. I was like, Jesus, and on paper, I looked fabulous. And I got the validation. And so I had all of that. And what was interesting, though, is having that didn't change how I felt about myself inside. And it was beautiful because it actually allowed me to see that is not where my sense. And if I build my worth on the external, then it's like building a house on sand. And the winds come and the rain comes, and it's like, woof, look out, here's a ride. And knowing on that inside, which I think is a lifelong journey. I mean, I can say, there are times where I find myself with that sense of looking for validation outside, because I'm human. And the day that I don't, and the day that I know wholly and solely, I have arrived. This is absolutely, and it's not just a mental construct, but it's fully there. I probably won't need to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why I say the journey is not done yet, because we're not dead yet. And thank goodness for that. And I love the fact that I'm not dead yet. I actually wrote an email for my ladies yesterday, and I said to them, happy birthday. And I was like, no, seriously, happy birthday. Do you realize that every morning that your consciousness returns to your body, that is a choice to be birthed again? And every day is a birthday, and every day we get to decide who we are birthing ourselves as into this world, and who we will embody into this world today. Because there's only now, right? Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So how am I embodying myself, therefore my legacy today? And why are we not celebrating every freaking day as a birthday? Because every day is a birthday.
That's beautiful.
We celebrate our birthdays every day from this point forward, because why not? I think we are deserving of celebration. And I want to take this conversation somewhere very naughtily for myself, and that is the embodiment of the essence of women through the wardrobe. Because when we started talking about this, I was like, oh my goodness, how refreshing. So do you want to talk about that part of your work a little bit?
I would love to, because that comes in to the birthing of every day. Dressing is something we do and actually have to do if we're out in this world every single day. I mean, it's law, right? We can't go out naked, not in our society anyway. So what I found with dressing, and after like nearly 3 decades or so in the fashion industry and, high profile roles and blah, 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 dressing was not hard for me at all. Yet did I always feel great in my clothes and in the sense of who I was? No. I was like, what is this? Like, putting an outfit together for me is just easy, right? I've honed that skill over years. But my sense of self, I found each time I went to the wardrobe or I went to get dressed, it was like, and the clothes that I was in, if I was out with others, I would have this niggling voice that was not this sense of self-assurity. And that was bizarre to me. So what I do is I work with women in really coming home to who they are in the wardrobe. Every morning, we think we make really conscious choices about what we wear. Yet the majority of our choices, if not all our choices, are unconscious, and they are governed by our belief patterns, by our mindsets, by the sense of who we think we are, from the patterns that we've adopted from almost the day we were born. We've been watching and taking in all the information about who we need to be in this world. And this world and the society that we live in is so rife with conditioning about how you need to look, what you need to wear. And, with social media, it's just amped it right up as well. Yeah. So each morning when we get dressed, we either empower ourselves, if we're coming from our heart, or we disempower ourselves. And most women, before doing this program, all women actually that I work with before doing this, are totally disempowering themselves, but not actually sure of how or why.
So let's jump into that. I'd like to go there, because how does a woman disempower herself? By the way that she's dressing.
Okay, great. So when you go to your wardrobe, often what happens is, instead of actually feeling in and knowing who the essence of who you are and almost allowing your clothes to pick you, there's so many things that go through your mind, right? So if you ever got really quiet, what I did was I got super quiet in my wardrobe one day when I was trying to work out what the hell is going on here. And what I heard was this booming voice. Oh, actually, forget it. It wasn't just one voice. It was a lot of voices. Like, honestly, Elle, it was like a meetup group in there. and all these different conditionings that were there of, my God, Sarah, you look ugly. You can't wear that. You wore that last week. My God, what will they think of you? What will everyone else be wearing? Will I fit in this? Will I belong? My arms look saggy. My boob looks too small. My butt looks too big. Blah, 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 blah. You know, there's so many, and I know this because I hack into people's wardrobes for a living. Like, I hear the same thing from people regardless of size, regardless of body shape. It actually makes no difference regardless of age. It's extraordinary. So what happens is every morning when you get dressed, and this white noise is having you govern your choices, you are embedding that sense of disempowerment within your being. You have externally focused your own self-expression in this world. You've made it about how you'll be received rather than how do I, like the heart and soul of me, choose to show up in this world today. Now, they're very, very different energies. And here's the kicker. The kicker is this. The patterns that you play in your wardrobe, so it could be some of those voices that I described before. It could be you play small. So you hide who you are because you don't want to impose yourself upon others, or you don't want to be seen, or you might play small. And in that playing small, you might feel guilty if you intimidate others. You might tend to feel that you're not worthy of actually being seen. You might not want to be seen in case people don't like you. Or you might puff up. And that puff up comes in that sense of using clothes as a guard, as an armor. And I'm going to look the best here so that no one can get through that armor, right? And then we go into the competition piece. If you're doing any of those things in your wardrobe, have a look where you're doing those same things out in life. Because the patterns, they're exactly the same, Elle. They're exactly the same. So I often say to people, like, if you're playing small in your wardrobe, when is it that you're in that conversation? Doesn't matter whether it's business, relationship, whatever. And there's something you want to say, you don't say it. Where are those pieces that you puff up and you don't really to show up and speak in your level of authenticity? Where are you saying to yourself, I'm not enough as I am. I need to find a persona that others will find intriguing, exciting, will respect and appreciate. Because whatever we're doing in our wardrobes, we're doing out in life as well. When we shift that, which I'll explain to you how we do, when we shift that in our wardrobe, then what happens is that then when we really come from our heart and soul in the morning, what happens is we then get to shift the energy that we are in. And when we shift our energy in an embodiment of that, and our clothes are an embodiment tool, then the energy that we take out into the world, like it's like this, it's this trajectory of our absolute fullness. And from that fullness, we know where to go. We know what to say. We come from our authenticity. We have this sense of self-respect, self-confidence, self-love. It seems obvious, our mission, our vision, our purpose, everything just is very obvious when we are in that space. And our clothes are a tool that we either use to, coming back to the question, empower ourselves and embody that sense of true self from our heart, not from our head, or we're going to disempower ourselves and embody really dysfunctional patterns every day that we get dressed and we won't even know it.
And I always want to invite compassion into the conversation here, especially because our listeners are high functioning, high achieving women. And quite frankly, for the most part, we just don't know what we don't know. And when we hear these things and it all of a sudden goes, oh my God, click, that's what's happening. High achieving women tend to be really hard on themselves and very self-critical. And I know that my old pattern would have been, oh, Al, you're so dumb. How could you have missed that? And so I just want to invite compassion into the conversation to every single listener here. And you know, that's why I love women like you doing the work that you are doing in the world, because I have to admit, I'm self-confessing here. For the longest time, I used my rejection of dressing well as an excuse to play small. And what I mean by that is I went into judging fashion, judging how people get dressed up, how much they spend on fashion, all of those things, even though I inherently love beautiful garments. And that was my excuse to play small, was to show up looking shoddy and crap.
Oh, I love your awareness in that. And that's exactly an example of one of the patterns. And especially because I work with a lot of high achieving women, right? And they're brave and they're courageous. And, you know, it's, I love that sense of compassion that you've brought to this, because when we judge ourselves for judging ourselves, and when we judge ourselves for things that we don't know, I'm a high achieving woman as well. I know that self-critic, right? It's full on. It's completely full on. So what I love about what you've just said is it's finding what we do in the Wearing Your Worth program is we look at all of the patterns, and you've just described one of those patterns, yeah, which I see often. And so we find what those patterns are that you're running. And as I'm sure you're aware, Elle, it's like when we find and we bring a pattern up into our awareness, then we can start to manage it instead of it managing us. And when we get to those patterns, then what happens is literally there is an opening, because it's almost like we've shone a torch onto the patterns that we're running. Underneath those patterns are what I describe as your style essences. Now, we each have 3 style essences. Why they're 3? I have absolutely no idea why there's 3. It's just always 3. I guess 3 is quite an auspicious number, right? And what happens is those style essences, they are completely unique to each individual. It's like the blueprint of who your soul came here to express. And it makes so much sense to me now that I know that. It's like, you think about it, you are 1 in 8 billion people who are on this earth. The universe has orchestrated itself for you in the form that you are today to show up in your unique energetic frequency. No one else has the same frequency that you do. So it stands to reason that no one else has the same self-expression as you do. And the way that we go out into the world, we do what we do in the world. Why wouldn't the clothes, which are our second skin, need to be congruent with the energy and the essence of who we really are? Think about when that's incongruent, which it is most of the time for people unless they're awake for it, it's like a kink in the DNA, right? It's like something's just not there. And so we've got this extraordinary power which allows us to really, what I say is come home to ourselves. When we put those 3 style essences into the one outfit, this is what I see. Whoa, it's like a pow. I see women, and it happens every single time. It's like they're just like, whoa, it's like they've been plugged into an electrical current of their very own charge, not a generic charge, it's not something that someone else has told them. It's the murmurings of their soul that has come through and said this. And they all, this is quite the batty thing, is that they all say a very similar thing to me without me preempting or provoking that kind of thought to come out. And they all say to me and look at me with these eyes, and they say to me, I've never felt so alive in my life. And it's just like, their whole energy, because I can see energy shifts as well. And it's like, whoa. And then what comes out of them, I had a client a few weeks ago, which when she was in her essences, and she's a powerhouse, this woman, like, for goodness sake, and she's out in the world, changing the world, like with other powerful women. And she was she knew she was playing small on some level. Right, she had programs to go to that were really large and much higher in price point as well, and playing in a much bigger market. And she was containing herself in her wardrobe and in her business. So she was kind of like not really saying what she wanted to say. When she got into those essences in our session, I started to ask her about her business, and out came this extraordinary, almost like, we could call it channel, but just stream of consciousness from her heart and soul. And it was so different. And she stopped and she was just like, well, I said, it's okay. I got that on tape. Like, I recorded that for you. And so I kept getting her to move out of her essences, unbeknown to her. So I just shift something and say, I wonder what happens when we put this on. And then I'd ask her, and it would go back to this stilted. Yeah, what she thought others needed her to be like. And then we'd move her back into her essence. I'd do the same thing, kapow. So it's quite a fascinating, and it makes so much sense to me now. I don't know why I didn't come across it earlier, but this was my time.
So I have a question, and let's go back to the power of three, and let's go really witchy on our own asses, because my question that's coming through is, as we as women go through the phases of maiden, mother, crone, let's just use that language for a moment. Do the essences change as we go through those times? And the reason why I'm asking specifically is I feel like I have entered the crone phase of my life. And in that, something inside of me has shifted. And I look at my wardrobe, and everything that I felt good in previously just doesn't feel right on my body at all anymore. So where I used to be very structured and kind of like jackets and all of those things, when I put them on now, they feel inauthentic, but they didn't feel inauthentic before. Do you think our essences change as we go through the phases of being a maiden, a mother, and a crone?
That's such a beautiful question, and I've never been asked that. And I knew you were going to go places that I'd never gone with people before. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. To be very honest with you, Wearing Your Worth has been going for about a decade. So I can't tell you maiden, mother, crone from an actual example. Yeah. What I can tell you is this. I've seen mother crone. And what happens is, so it's almost like our essences. So my essences a grace, right? There's an effortless elegance to everything I wear. There's sexy. Now, sexy is a very triggering word to a lot of people because they think about sexy and how it looks rather than how it feels. And if you think about sex, the origins of sex is to procreate. So sex is the foundation of our creation. Sexy to me is like this incredible creative powerhouse of a woman inside me. Now, for me, I love to have the air kiss my skin, right? It might be on my chest, it could be my shoulders, could be my ankles, could be my wrists. And that brings me into this, or it might be body hugging, or it could be flow, right? That brings me into that sexy feel. So I've got grace. But it's all about, sexy is all about what it feels like to me, not what it looks like to anyone else. All of the essences are. And then the third one is uniquely bold. And that brings for me, there's always something about my outfit. It could be the way that I've put it together in a juxtaposition, something unexpected. Yeah, it might be a dressy top and a very casual bottom, or the opposite. It could be, you know, how I've kind of spliced colors together, whatever it is. Or it could be a sparkle high top sneaker, right? That's bold in itself. It'll be something in there. When I put all three of those together and I think about myself as I was younger, those essences were still there. So I go right back. So the expression of them may change. So what I'm hearing from you is that before crone stage, which actually is us coming into our full feminine power, it sounds like the blazers are a very masculine shape. It's possible that even though they felt authentic, you may not have been as awake to yourself as you are now. So that sense of how do I be powerful in the world? In the 30s and 40s, I often see they overemphasize their masculine. Yep, and shut down on their feminine. And in dressing, it's very, very important that our masculine feminine is balanced. Now, the masculine is there to hold a container for the feminine, but not to contain her. And without a doubt, every client I see has got the masculine, because of the world that we live in, contains her feminine. Now, we can't be super powerful women out there unless we're really willing to stand in our full feminine power. A woman in her full feminine power is simply so utterly more powerful than a woman trying to stand in masculine power instead. I often say that the masculine responds to the feminine, right? So we think it's the other way around. But as women, when we truly own our feminine power, then the masculine of this world will start to shift and to grow as well. We think it's the other way around. We're trying so much in this world to change this masculine power, but that is not where real strength lies. The strength lies in the feminine. It's almost like we are the instigators, we are the innovators, we are creation.
We are the inspiration.
Inspiration.
We are what inspires the masculine.
Correct.
And what I've also discovered is that the masculine is, in fact, the caregiver, not the feminine. The masculine is very attentive to what the feminine needs for her to be in her state of full expression and joy. And he provides that. The masculine provides that for the feminine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. However, I would say that in doing that, it's almost like that provider, for us to really, we have to stand in our full feminine, or the masculine so say if we're talking, and this is not male female.
No, Mrs. Masculine, feminine. Yes.
So, but for the masculine to really trust enough to really go and provide that, the healthy masculine will come up when the feminine is in her full healthy feminine.
Yes.
Yeah. So because we can say, if we're looking at, because the feminine's everything, right? She's chaotic, she's clear, she's soft, she's strong, there's just such a beautiful sense of the equals and opposites here. And for us to be able to embody that fullness of her, it's about accepting all of that. And when we're in our full power, the masculine less wants to fix and more wants to provide.
Exactly, because there is nothing to fix.
Correct.
But there is to provide, and the provision is the structure that is required by the feminine to give her full expression. I always take everything back to nature. And I've said for a long time, there's a reason it's called Mother Nature, because it is sunshine and it is thunderstorms, it's rain and it's wind. It is all of that. Mother Nature is all things, and she doesn't reject, judge, or condemn any part of who she is, because she understands that for life to flourish, all things are needed. And so when we come across the healthy feminine, we see that beautiful expression of self in a healthy way, but in acceptance of all these parts of ourselves. And that is what I love. And that has probably been my biggest journey, because I come from a very masculine background. I was extraordinarily in my masculine to the suppression of my feminine. I used to say, oh, I feel hungry. You know, I have feelings too. I feel hungry sometimes. I even rejected and denied my feelings, which for a woman is such a superpower, our emotions, and allowing ourselves to follow the guidance of our emotions. And so it's interesting for me to see how, so I have a question for you, because, oh my goodness, we're going way over time here, and that's okay. This is a juicy conversation. But one of the things that you said earlier was you go into the wardrobe in the morning and you allow the outfit to choose you. I would love for you to talk into that a little bit, because that statement really intrigued me.
Got it. Okay. So thank you. When we know our style essences, it's like we have this sense of connection with these, albeit inanimate objects, that hold such an energy that aligns with the heart of who we are. So I will literally go into my wardrobe, and it's almost like I don't go to the head, because I don't need to go to the head. It's almost like I just choose here, and I just allow these pieces just to pop to me. So I don't go through a whole planning phase, or I don't think, what am I going to wear tomorrow, or blah, blah, blah. I'll get out of the shower, I'll go to the wardrobe, and I'll give over to that. Because if I'm in my essence, and I trust that level of intuition within, they pop. And I'm always in my essences, so I always feel like really a very grounded confidence, and a power and a presence that's palpable, actually, because it's this internal sense of direction. And that's the same with, because most people just think about what to wear, in which case they've just handed over to a very noisy conversation in their head, which then starts to engage their nervous system, and it then starts to often become sort of unregulated as well, because then they're projecting forward and thinking forward, and people go, but you've got to think about the weather, think about where you're going, great, finished, now let's feel. And it's really, when you know your essences, Elle, it's just so easy, and it's fun, because what happens, it's a bit like creative. If you've got a blank canvas, do you plan what you're going to? Like a true artist allows his soul to paint. Yes. This is what happens in dressing. We are artists. Dressing is a form of art, and we've forgotten that. And so when we come back to our essence, it's like we get to play and create every morning. I still find new outfits in my wardrobe that I haven't done before. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful process.
So I know that every single listener right now is going, okay, fine. How do I figure out what my essences are? And spoiler alert, I'm going to say you are writing a book at the moment, and that is coming. And of course, I'm on the waiting list for that. But how do people actually start engaging with you? How do they start finding out more about the essences? What have you got coming up that can support them?
Yeah, sure. I have an online course coming up, which starts early March. And that we go through, or it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. We go through, we find all of your patterns, and then we come through and we discover your style essences. Then we look at how you style your own style essences in your wardrobe. We look at decluttering, we look at shopping. Then we also look at the style essences beyond the wardrobe, because they will be playing out beyond the wardrobe as well. So that I have an online course. I also work with people one-on-one as well. And so probably the best place, I imagine you'll put links down below, but the best place to get me is either on my Instagram, which is Sarah Gale Official, or my website's got a host of things, plus some free downloads as well, which is wearingyourworth.com.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. So excited for everybody. So excited that women like you are taking the time to bring a different conversation to topics that we've almost negated at this stage. And it is part of, I love being a woman. One of the things I love being a woman is the playfulness that we get to bring to life. How we play in doing our hair, play in doing makeup or not makeup, play in what we wear. And you bring it back so beautifully to artistry and self-expression. Because for me, we all have a choice to live as artists. And that is purely getting to know who you are and giving yourself permission to then self-express unapologetically in the world without attachment of how you are being received.
I love that. I totally love that. And if I can add something to the end of that, we've taken on such a masculine way of expressing. And even though, and I say this as also a, very, what would I say? As a businesswoman, I was like just gung-ho. And sure, on one level, it looked like it worked, right? Because I knew how to play into those systems. But it was nothing, and I mean nothing, compared to when I came in and embodied my true essence and that feminine power. It was just like the wake that we leave in our presence is just like, it is extraordinary. It's so beautiful. There is no power like that. So we're dulling ourselves down when we've learned to manipulate the external world through the sense of who we think we need to be. And we may think, what I will say is, if we think we've got it, then look out, world, when we actually step into our true self-expression. Because when we do that, and when we do that each morning, it's like kapow, it ripples into the whole of our life. And that is just, oh my God, it's so delicious and it's so powerful. And to be honest, Elle, it's so what the world needs right now. We need more powerful women in their true essence, in their true authenticity, walking this world and following and being the ones they choose to follow.
And being the ones they choose to follow.
Mm.
I want to end the conversation there today because it feels like it's complete. Thank you so much, Sarah, for everything today. This has been extraordinary. I'm going to go listen to this recording straight afterwards. There was so much that you've shared with us so graciously today. And for that, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know that every single woman who's listening to this at the moment is compassionately having a look and go, am I really self-expressing my essence in a way that feels powerful and empowered? And I love even that one question, are my clothes empowering me or disempowering me? Game changer. Game changer question. Thank you so much. So to all of our listeners, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What are your greatest insights with regards to your style, maybe your essence? Play around with some words, put them in the comments, feel how they feel to you. Is this how you choose to express? And maybe where are you finding yourself in your style journey? No judgment, no self-criticism, just being real with ourselves, ladies, because that's what all of this is all about. I highly recommend you check out Sarah's work. Seriously, connect with her on LinkedIn. She's one of those most beautiful, graceful, gracious, open-hearted women in this world, that what you see is what you get. She is the real deal. Why would you not want to connect with her? And as always, I look forward to another rich conversation next week. Also check out her course, by the way. And even if you are listening after the course has started, connect with her, find out what she's got going on, whether it's working privately with her, maybe her book is already released and you can start reading it. Who knows when this recording finds you? It always happens in the divine time. So until next week, don't forget, ladies, we get to live our legacies unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. Have an amazing day further. Cheers.